Let's begin with a simple question. When was the last time you truly let go? Not let go because you were exhausted. Not because you gave up. But because something deep within you whispered, "This is no longer yours to carry." In the first chapter, we talked about the silent power of surrender. We explored what it really means to stop gripping life so tightly. And maybe, just maybe, you felt something shift. A loosening in the chest. A softening of your breath. A quiet voice inside that said, "Yes, I want to live like that." But here's the thing most people miss. Letting go is not the end. It's the beginning. It's the gateway that opens you to a completely different way of being. Because once you release control, a new question rises from the silence. Who am I when I'm not chasing? That question is the heartbeat of what comes next. What if your life isn't built by force, but by frequency? What if the universe doesn't respond to how hard you try, but how fully you trust? In this next chapter, we'll walk deeper into that stillness and discover a truth that changes everything. Sparkles, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe you deserve. Chapter 1, The Power of Letting Go, a Radical Shift in Living. Have you ever held something so tightly that it slipped right through your fingers? That's how many of us live our lives. Clenching. Grasping. Trying. Fighting. We've been conditioned to believe that life only rewards effort and that if something isn't working, we simply aren't pushing hard enough. But there comes a moment in every spiritual journey, a sacred pause, where we begin to suspect that all our doing is actually keeping us from being. That all our striving might be the very thing standing between us and peace. And in that moment, a quiet truth begins to whisper. Let go. This simple phrase is not about giving up. It's about giving into the rhythm of the universe, into trust, into life's unfolding. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. Letting go doesn't mean apathy. It means maturity, the deep understanding that control is an illusion and presence is power. The illusion of control. We try to script our lives like a tightly written novel. We plan when we'll succeed, how others should behave, what our relationships should look like, when the promotion should come, where our purpose should lead. And when reality doesn't obey that script, we feel betrayed, frustrated, lost. But here's the truth most of us were never taught. Control is an exhausting fantasy. You may influence outcomes. You may plant seeds. You may take action. But you will never control the weather, or the timing, or the way life sometimes moves in mysterious loops. You can't force a flower to bloom. You can't demand the ocean to calm. You can't hurry the soul's healing. And deep down, you know this. That's why control feels so stressful. It's not natural. It's resistance disguised as responsibility. Letting go, then, is not weakness. It's a return to alignment. What letting go actually looks like. People often misunderstand letting go as some kind of passive laziness. But real surrender is an act of inner strength. It's the calm courage to say, I release my grip on what I can't force. I trust that the universe is wiser than my fear. I choose peace over prediction. Imagine you're standing in a river. The current is strong. You're holding onto a branch, terrified that if you let go, you'll drown. But your legs are strong. You can swim. The current may carry you, yes, but perhaps not into danger. Perhaps toward freedom. Letting go is releasing the branch. Letting life carry you not because you've given up, but because you've grown up. You begin to realize that much of your anxiety wasn't about the future itself, it was about trying to control it. A story from the path. There was once a woman named Sarah. She had spent 10 years building her dream business. She poured her soul into it, late nights, early mornings, missed vacations, sleepless worry. Her identity became tied to its success. But one year, the market shifted. Sales dropped. Investors pulled out. Despite everything, she couldn't keep it afloat. The business collapsed. And with it, so did her sense of self. For months, she spiraled, wondering what she could have done better, blaming herself, refusing to move on. Until one day, while walking in the woods, she saw an old tree shedding its leaves. In that quiet moment, something in her softened. The tree wasn't clinging. It wasn't mourning. It was simply doing what it was made to do: let go. Nature knows something we forget. There is wisdom in release. That image stayed with Sarah. She stopped trying to rebuild the past. She began journaling, meditating, volunteering. And eventually, she launched a wellness retreat that now helps others heal. That new path only opened when the old one was allowed to close. Letting go wasn't the end. It was the beginning. What are you still carrying? Let me ask you something gently, lovingly. What are you trying to force right now? What outcome are you clinging to like your peace depends on it? What would it feel like to finally release it? Not because you're giving up, but because your soul deserves to breathe. Because maybe peace doesn't come after everything is solved. Maybe it comes the moment you stop needing everything to be solved. Buddhism teaches this through the concept of non-attachment, or upadana. It's not that desire itself is bad, it's the clinging to desire that creates suffering. When we hold too tightly to people, plans, or identities, we create friction. We resist change. We fear impermanence. But life is impermanence. Trying to freeze it is like trying to capture a sunset in your hand. Letting go of the need to let go. Ironically, even letting go can become another goal to obsess over. You try to let go, but you're still checking if it's working. You say, "I surrender," then peek to see if the universe is responding. You're still holding the steering wheel, just with a different grip. But real letting go is deeper than a sentence. It's a nervous system shift. It's the unclenching of your stomach. The drop of your shoulders. The breath that says, "I don't know, but I'm okay." It's moving from, "I'll let go so that I can get what I want," to, "I'll let go because I trust that whatever comes is enough." This kind of surrender isn't a performance. It's a practice. A practice of pausing, breathing, releasing, and returning. Ancient wisdom, modern life. One of the most famous Zen koans asks, if you let go of a rope that's keeping you from falling, and yet it's strangling you, Do you still call that safety? We often cling to things that hurt us simply because they're familiar. Control feels safe even if it's suffocating. But freedom, real freedom, often feels like fear at first. Because we're stepping into the unknown. We're walking without a map. But we're also walking in peace. Because when you're not constantly holding life in a chokehold, you begin to feel its softness again. You begin to remember the childlike wonder you once had. The open-hearted faith. The sacred joy of not needing to know what's next. The paradox of power. Letting go doesn't mean you lose power. It means you stop misusing it. True power is not domination over life. It's cooperation with life. It's not about forcing people or events to bend to your will. It's about aligning your actions with what is, and trusting that what flows from there will be better than what you could have forced. Think of great spiritual teachers, not just the Buddha, but Christ, Rumi, Lao Tzu. They weren't frantic. They weren't desperate. They moved with grace, not haste. Why? Because they trusted. Trust is the fuel of surrender. The everyday practice of letting go. So what does this look like in daily life? When a conversation goes poorly, and you replay it in your head, let go. When a plan falls apart, and your first instinct is panic, pause. When someone disappoints you, and you want to control their growth, breathe. When your heart is aching to understand why, be still. You don't have to have all the answers. You just need to stop gripping so tightly to the questions. Letting go is the daily decision to soften. Not once, but again. And again. Closing reflection, the quiet revolution. You don't need a dramatic life overhaul to begin this path. You don't need to quit your job or sell your house or shave your head. You simply need to start here. Wherever you are. With whatever's in your heart. Take one small thing you've been holding too tightly. A grudge. A fear. An expectation. And gently begin to loosen your hold. Breathe into it. Offer it back to the universe. Whisper to yourself, I release this. I trust. I allow. And know that in doing so, you've begun a quiet revolution within. Because letting go isn't just an act. It's a way of being. It's how you begin living in the stream, not against it. It's how peace returns to your body, your thoughts, your soul. So today, let this be your practice. Not to fix everything, but to trust the path. Because in the end, what you let go of was never who you were. And what comes next might just be better than you imagined. Chapter 2, You Attract What? In Chapter 1, we explored the liberating truth of letting go, the art of releasing control, the courage to trust, and the sacred act of surrendering our white-knuckled grip. But surrender. It's because once why? You don't get what you chase. You get what you are. This isn't just spiritual poetry. And once you've probably met someone who walks into a room and immediately feels calming. Or someone who never says a. Or maybe someone That's vibration. Buddhism may not use the term law of attraction in the way New Age culture does, but it has always taught, your thoughts, emotions, And why? Because WH not. And Amy. This is who I am. This is W. This is what I. What? Have you ever noticed that the harder you chase something, validation, success, love, the more elusive it becomes? You chase the text, and they never reply. You obsess over money, and your anxiety blocks opportunities. You push for success, and burn out before you even get halfway. It's not that wanting is wrong. Wanting is human. But chasing comes from lack. And lack repels. Let me explain. When you're in a state of lack, I need this to feel okay, you're telling the universe, I'm incomplete. I'm not enough. Something is missing. And so, everything you do from that place carries that frequency. Even your effort is drenched in fear. And the universe, without judgment, without punishment, simply reflects it back. That's not because the universe is cruel. It's because life mirrors alignment, not desperation. The subtle shift, from desperation to resonance. So how do you shift? You move from chasing what you want to becoming what you seek. Want love? Be love. Embody compassion. Treat yourself the way you want to be treated. Want peace? Don't wait for the world to calm down. Become a peaceful presence wherever you go. Want success? Don't chase titles. Align with integrity. Show up in your worth. Act from your inner power, not your insecurity. It sounds simple, even cliché. But it's not. It's profound. And it's difficult. Because most of us have spent years, even decades, believing we have to earn love, prove worth, chase happiness, perform for success. Becoming instead of chasing requires deprogramming the survival self, the part of you that learned to hustle for approval. A story from real life, Elijah and the audition. Elijah was a struggling actor in Los Angeles. For 5 years, he went to every casting call, joined every acting class, networked endlessly. But every role he wanted slipped through his fingers. He was always anxious, always in comparison mode, always feeling like he wasn't enough. One day, a friend gave him a strange challenge. Don't go to any auditions this month. Just live like the version of you after you've already made it. Elijah was skeptical. But he tried. He stopped obsessing. Started journaling again. Took long walks. Got deeply present. He imagined what it would feel like to already be a successful actor, not arrogant, but grounded. He started showing up to his day job with more presence. More joy. He was being who he wanted to become. And in the second week of that experiment, he got a call from a director he'd met a year ago. No audition. Just an offer. Elijah didn't chase the role. He became the person who attracts that kind of role. Buddhist insight, the mirror of self. Buddhism has a beautiful metaphor for the self. The mind is like a mirror. What you see reflected is what you project. If you believe you're not enough, the world will show you confirmations. If you constantly expect rejection, you'll interpret every silence as proof. If you think life is scarce, your attention will only find scarcity. But if you sit in your worth, if you believe in your innate goodness, if you radiate a sense of peace, trust, and compassion, you will see those qualities reflected in unexpected places, in strangers who show kindness, in doors that suddenly open, in moments of grace that feel guided. You didn't chase them. You aligned with them. But what about action? Here's the part that often gets misunderstood. Letting go and aligning with your higher self doesn't mean you sit on the couch and wait for life to deliver everything to your doorstep. This is not magical thinking. This is energetic integrity. You do take action. But it's inspired action, not desperate scrambling. You move with presence. You make the call because it feels aligned, not because you're terrified of missing out. You show up to work because you're passionate, not because you're panicking. You say yes to the opportunity because it matches your values, not because you're afraid it's your only shot. This kind of action flows naturally. It's joyful, grounded, peaceful, effective. You become magnetic, not manipulative. The practice of becoming. So how do you begin? You start small. You ask big-hearted questions. Try these. If I already had what I wanted, how would I walk through this day? What version of me is trying to? What energy am I radiating right now? Am I acting from love, or from lack? And most importantly, what do I actually believe I deserve? Because here's the spiritual punchline. You will never receive beyond what you believe you deserve. The worthiness wound. This might be the hardest truth of all. Most of us don't chase goals, we chase permission. Permission to rest. To feel enough. To be loved without condition. But you don't need permission. You need remembrance. You were born whole. Born worthy. Life didn't give you your value, so life can't take it away. Your job is not to convince the world you're enough. It's to become a person who no longer needs to prove it. That shift will change your life. Because as soon as you embody worthiness, the universe begins to respond. You'll notice how effortlessly some things flow in. And how other things fall away, not because you failed, but because you grew. Embody first, receive second. In Buddhist meditation, there is a practice called bhavana, which means development or cultivation. We don't just wait for qualities like compassion, peace, or presence to arise, we practice becoming them. You don't wait until life gives you something to feel gratitude. You feel gratitude now, and that energy attracts more to be grateful for. You don't wait until you feel safe to trust. You cultivate trust, and that vibration opens new paths. This is the inner work of becoming. And it is work. It means sitting with discomfort. Facing the stories you've carried. Rewriting your beliefs, not just your to-do list. But the reward? You become someone who doesn't just manifest what they want. You become someone who can hold it. Final reflection, become what you seek. Let me leave you with this. If you want to attract peace, become peaceful. If you want to attract love, become loving. If you want abundance, become generous. If you want freedom, stop gripping. You don't manifest from the mind. You manifest from the soul. From the energy you hold when no one is watching. From the quiet choices you make when fear tries to scream louder than faith. from the moments you stop chasing and start becoming. So today, ask yourself, what am I chasing? Who do I need to become to receive it? And what would it feel like to already be that person? Then become that. Now. Not tomorrow. Not when life gives you permission. Because you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. Chapter 3, Releasing Control, the Paradox of Power. We live in a world that applauds control. The more you manage, manipulate, predict, and prepare, the more you're seen as responsible, successful, even admirable. You're in control. You must have your life together. You let go. That must mean you've lost your grip. But here's the great paradox. The need to control is not strength. It is fear dressed in ambition. And the real power, the one the great sages speak of, doesn't come from control. It comes from release. How control sneaks into everything. Control is tricky. It doesn't always wear obvious clothing. Sometimes it disguises itself as helpfulness, responsibility, or even love. You plan every detail of your day not for clarity, but to avoid surprises. You try to fix your partner not because you don't love them, but because you fear they won't grow without your push. You double-check the decision you've already made again and again because you're terrified of regret. It starts as protection. It ends as prison. Because when control takes the wheel, trust is thrown in the trunk. Control is a closed fist. Picture this. You're holding a delicate object in your hand. Something precious, say, a flower or a butterfly. If you hold it gently, it rests in your palm. But if you squeeze too tightly, it's crushed. That's how life responds to control. When we try to grasp tightly to outcomes, to people, to timelines, we lose the very thing we're trying to preserve. Tightness doesn't bring stability. It brings suffocation. In Buddhism, this principle is reflected in the teaching of non-clinging. The more we cling, the more suffering we create. A story from the Dharma, the monkey trap. There's an old parable told in Buddhist circles about how hunters used to trap monkeys. They would carve a hole in a coconut just big enough for a monkey's hand to slip in and place a treat inside. The monkey would reach in, grab the treat, but then, couldn't pull his hand out while holding it. All he had to do to be free, was let go. But he wouldn't. He couldn't. Because the desire for the treat overpowered the wisdom of release. We're all that monkey sometimes. We trap ourselves in jobs, relationships, or ideas, refusing to release our grip, even when the cost is our freedom. The only way out? Let go of what you think you must have. And realize you're already whole without it. Why do we try to control so much? Control is almost always born from fear. Fear of failure. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of being hurt again. Fear of what happens if we don't steer every wheel in our lives. Sometimes it's childhood wounds. Sometimes it's trauma. Sometimes it's simply living in a world that tells us, if you don't control it, you'll lose it. So we develop habits of overthinking. Of managing emotions, ours and everyone else's. Of solving problems that don't yet exist. But here's what we rarely ask. At what cost? When you try to control everything, You lose your joy. You lose your spontaneity. You lose your ability to dance with life, because you're too busy rehearsing every step. The body knows. Before the mind even realizes it's trying to control, the body knows. Feel your shoulders. Are they tight? Your jaw clenched. Your breath shallow. Control lives in the body as tension. That's why surrender doesn't start in the mind. It starts in the body. Relaxing is an act of release. Stillness is a rebellion against obsession. Breathing deeply is a revolution against fear. Buddhist meditation practices teach us to scan the body not just to notice tension, but to welcome it. To soften into it. Because the body doesn't lie. If you can relax your body, the mind often follows. When you're no longer in control, and that's okay. Let me tell you a story. A woman named Lana had a high-paying job, a beautiful home, and a picture-perfect life. Until one year suddenly everything began to unravel. Her company downsized. Her relationship ended. Her father passed away unexpectedly. She felt like her life was falling apart. In truth, it was falling into place. Because for the first time, she couldn't control anything. She had to sit in the unknown. At first, she panicked. Tried to fix, rush, rebuild. Nothing worked. Eventually, out of exhaustion, she surrendered. She stopped resisting what was. She stopped forcing healing. She stopped pretending to be okay. And in that sacred stillness, something new emerged. She began painting again. Something she hadn't done since childhood. She began teaching. She met new people who saw her not the resume, not the mask, but her. Her life didn't get back on track. It found a new track. A truer one. And it only appeared when control stepped aside. The myth of if I let go, everything will fall apart. This is the voice inside most of us. If I stop controlling, it'll all collapse. If I loosen my grip, I'll lose what matters. If I don't manage everything, I'll be left behind. But here's the radical truth. Sometimes letting go is what holds everything together. Because it gives life room to breathe. It allows grace to enter. It invites the unexpected. And it stops the cycle of fear pretending to be protection. What true power looks like. Real power doesn't yell. It doesn't panic. It doesn't need to prove itself. Real power is presence. It's walking into a room without needing to control it. It's hearing someone disagree and not needing to convince them. It's watching plans change and staying steady anyway. Real power is the energy of the awakened mind. The Buddha didn't control others. He simply was radiating stillness, offering insight, walking in truth. And because he needed nothing from anyone, people were drawn to him. That is spiritual gravity. That is the kind of power that transforms the world without needing to control it. How to begin releasing control? You don't have to throw away your calendar or stop being responsible. This isn't about chaos. It's about softening your grip. Start here. Notice your language. Do you say I have to, constantly? Try I choose to. Practice pausing, before responding, making decisions, or solving a problem. Breathe. Allow silence, not everything needs to be filled. Silence is sacred space. Feel before fixing, sit with emotions before trying to change them. Watch nature, it never hurries. Yet everything unfolds in perfect time. And finally, trust. Even if you don't understand. Even if it's messy. Even if you're scared. Because trust isn't about always knowing the outcome. It's about knowing you'll be okay no matter what. Final reflection, letting go is leadership. It might not be the leadership the world teaches, but it's the one the soul craves. Letting go is an act of leadership over your inner world. It's choosing clarity over chaos, surrender over struggle, stillness over stress. You don't need to be in control to be safe. You don't need to control others to be loved. You don't need to force outcomes to be fulfilled. In fact, the more you try to control, the more peace will slip through your fingers. But the more you allow, the more life rises to meet you with grace. So today, take your hands off the wheel just a little. Breathe into the space between outcomes. And remember, you are not here to control the ocean. You are here to learn how to float. Chapter 4, Silence Speaks Louder Than Noise. By now, we've begun to loosen our grip on control. We've stopped chasing. We've started aligning. We're learning to trust life, not force it. But the next step in this unfolding journey is one that few are ready for because it doesn't feel like a step at all. It feels like stillness. Silence. Not just the absence of sound, but the presence of listening. The sacred pause. The moment when all your inner noise, your mental debates, your emotional narratives, begin to quiet. And what you begin to hear is something far older, deeper, and wiser than anything you've ever read or been told. Yourself. And beyond that, the universe. Noise is the modern addiction. We don't realize how loud our lives have become. We wake up to alarms. Scroll social media before brushing our teeth. Rush into email, podcasts, traffic, notifications, opinions, debates. Even when alone, our heads are loud. What if this doesn't work? Did I say the wrong thing? What am I even doing with my life? We think by thinking louder, we'll think clearer. But noise only begets more noise. Silence, on the other hand, is terrifying for the ego. Because in silence, the masks fall. You can't perform for yourself. You can't distract. You can only face what is. The Buddhist lens, silence as wisdom. In Buddhist teachings, silence is not avoidance. It is clarity. The Buddha himself was known for often responding to complex or aggressive questions with silence. Not because he didn't know the answer, but because the question itself came from confusion and silence was the answer. In the Sabbasava Sutta, the Buddha says, he knows what questions are worth asking, and which ones are best left in silence. This is wisdom that transcends debate. It speaks to the power of not needing to respond to everything. In fact, in Zen, there is a phrase. Don't speak unless you can improve the silence. And most of the time, you can't. A personal story, the retreat that changed me. Years ago, I went on a 10-day silent meditation retreat. No phones. No talking. No eye contact. No writing. Just breath. Just being. By day 3, my mind was screaming. Everything I'd suppressed for years surfaced. Memories, fears, regrets, imagined conversations, weird cravings. But by day 5, the storm began to settle. And by day 7, silence became sanctuary. I heard things I never noticed: the sound of my footsteps, the tone of the birds, even my breath shifting with emotion. But most importantly, I began to hear my truth. Beneath the noise, I realized I wasn't broken. I was tired. I wasn't lost. I was disconnected. I wasn't confused. I just hadn't listened deeply in years. Silence didn't erase my problems. It made me realize what problems were real, and which were just mental habits. Silence as a mirror. Silence reflects. Like a still pond, it shows you what's really there without distortion. When your mind is noisy, it's like muddy water. You can't see anything clearly. You confuse emotion with fact, story with reality, fear with intuition. But silence settles the water. And in that stillness, truth becomes visible. This is why meditation is not about getting somewhere. It's about returning. Returning to what's underneath the noise. Because underneath your fear is usually a longing. Underneath your anxiety is often a story. And underneath the story is a truth too deep for words. Silence in relationships. Silence is also medicine in how we relate to others. We live in a culture of over-explaining. Of proving our points. Winning arguments. Texting back immediately. Clarifying endlessly. But often, silence says more. Not replying to a message designed to provoke, that's clarity. Not correcting someone who misunderstood you, that's wisdom. Not jumping to defend yourself, that's self-trust. Sometimes the most loving thing you can say is nothing at all. Because silence doesn't escalate. It doesn't defend. It doesn't dominate. It simply holds space. And in that space, people often hear themselves better than they would if you were speaking. The power of sacred silence in daily life. Silence isn't only for temples and retreats. It can be woven into the fabric of your ordinary days. And when it is, it changes everything. Here are ways to cultivate sacred silence. 1. Begin your morning with 5 minutes of quiet. No phone. No agenda. Just presence. Let the day arrive gently. 2. Commute without audio. No music, no podcast. Just drive. Observe. Let thoughts come and go. 3. Practice silent meals once a week. Eat slowly, without conversation or content. Taste. Feel. Be with your food. 4. Pause before responding. Breathe. Let the silence inform your reply. 5. Create a silence corner in your home. A chair, a candle, nothing more. Go there when overwhelmed. You don't need hours. You need intention. A few sacred minutes can reset your entire nervous system. What you hear in the quiet. Silence is not empty. It is full of wisdom. When the noise fades, you may begin to hear your body whispering, "I need rest." Your heart saying, "I miss simplicity." Your intuition reminding you, "You already know." The universe, soft and subtle, you're not alone. Noise demands attention. Silence invites awareness. And awareness is the foundation of spiritual growth. The ego hates silence. Why? Because silence exposes everything the ego tries to hide. The insecurity masked by performance. The fear beneath control. The loneliness under constant connection. The ego wants to be heard. Proved right. Constantly stimulated. But the soul longs to be still. That's why silence can feel uncomfortable at first. Because it confronts the identity you've been building, and invites you to go beyond it. Not to destroy your ego but to see through its illusions. Silence and the universe. In many spiritual traditions, silence is seen as the voice of God. In Buddhism, it is the gateway to direct experience beyond concepts, labels, thoughts. Because the universe doesn't always shout. It whispers. And the only way to hear a whisper is to be quiet. This is why monks walk slowly. Why temples are built in mountains. Why even the Buddha sat in silence under the Bodhi tree, not to escape the world, but to be with it fully. The deepest truths don't arrive in noise. They arrive in silence. And once you hear them, you can never unhear them. A modern paradox: the louder the world gets, the more powerful silence becomes. In today's culture, silence is rebellion. It's choosing not to shout when everyone else is. It's stepping back from the timeline, the news cycle, the hustle, and saying, "I don't need more information. I need more integration. I don't need to say something clever. I need to feel something true. I don't need to be seen constantly. I need to see myself clearly." That's the power of silence in modern life. It's not retreating. It's reclaiming. Reclaiming your energy. Your attention. Your inner compass. Final reflection: let silence speak first. As you move through this chapter of your journey, remember, you don't have to fill the space. You don't have to answer every question. You don't have to explain your piece to anyone. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Just be still. Just breathe. Just listen. Because in that silence, you'll remember who you are beneath the noise. What you need before the world tells you. What matters, before you chase what doesn't. And most of all, you'll hear the one voice that never lies. Your own. So pause today. Let the world be noisy. Let your mind slow down. And let silence speak first. Chapter 5, in divine timing, the universe doesn't rush, yet nothing is left undone. There's something inside all of us that wants to hurry. A quiet urgency. A belief that if it hasn't happened yet, maybe it never will. We count the years. We compare timelines. We whisper fears to ourselves like prayers. I should be farther by now. I'm running out of time. Why is it taking so long? But here's the sacred truth, one whispered through centuries of Buddhist wisdom, through forests and mountains and silent temples. The universe doesn't rush. Yet nothing is ever left undone. The myth of falling behind. We measure our lives with clocks, calendars, and checklists. Degrees by 25. Marriage by 30. Success by 35. Stability by 40. And when life doesn't match that script, we panic. But who wrote that script? Who decided when things should happen? Certainly not your soul. Certainly not the universe. In Buddhist teachings, time is not linear, it is experiential. Moments don't pass. We move through them. There is no late. There is only readiness. And readiness cannot be rushed. A story from the garden. Imagine a garden full of wildflowers. Each one blooms in its season. The daisy does not compare itself to the rose. The sunflower does not panic because the lavender bloomed first. Each seed has its own rhythm, its own readiness, its own time to rise toward the sun. Now imagine standing in that garden and shouting, "Hurry up! Why aren't you blooming yet?" Absurd, right? And yet, that's how we speak to ourselves. Every delay becomes a judgment. Every pause becomes proof we're falling behind. But maybe, just maybe, the soil is not punishing the seed. It's protecting it, nurturing it, preparing it. Divine timing is not delayed timing. Let's be clear. Trusting timing is not the same as tolerating procrastination. It's not passivity or avoidance. It's not giving up or waiting for signs without taking action. Trusting timing means this: I will do my part with clarity, discipline, and care. But I will release the need to rush the outcome. It means surrendering the illusion that effort equals speed. Because sometimes, the most aligned results come after we stop trying to push them into place. You don't dig up the roots of a plant every day to check if it's growing. You water it. You give it light. And then, you wait. With faith. A real-life example, Olivia's move. Olivia had always dreamed of moving to a quiet town by the sea. She had saved, planned, made vision boards. But for 5 years, something always came up: a job, a relationship, family needs. She began to feel cursed. Like her dream would never happen. One evening, after yet another plan fell through, she sat on her balcony and cried. Then, something shifted. She whispered, "Okay. I surrender. Maybe it's not time yet." She stopped planning. Just lived. 6 months later, completely out of nowhere, her company offered her a remote position. Her lease ended. A friend told her about a rental by the sea, quiet, affordable, open. No struggle. No forcing. Just flow. She didn't make it happen. She became ready. And when she was, life responded. Why the universe doesn't follow your schedule. The universe doesn't work in hours. It works in alignment. You can't manifest something if your inner world isn't prepared to hold it. In Buddhism, this is taught as dependent origination. Everything arises when conditions are right. You may want the relationship, But are you truly open to love? You may want abundance. But can you receive without self-sabotage? You may want clarity. But are you still clinging to old stories? The universe waits lovingly, patiently for the inner readiness that matches the outer desire. Because to give you what you're not ready for would not be a blessing. It would be a burden. Time is a teacher, not a threat. There's wisdom in the waiting. Have you ever noticed that the most profound shifts in your life didn't come when you were rushing? They came after heartbreak. After stillness. After being lost, confused, and quiet long enough to hear your soul whisper something new. In Buddhism, we call this impermanence anicca. Everything is in motion. Nothing is stuck forever. Not even waiting. The lesson? This too shall pass, but also this too is part of the path. Even the pause. Even the delay. Even the stillness you're tempted to rush through. The danger of forcing. Forcing something before its time is like picking a fruit that's not ripe. It looks okay. But it's bitter. How many of us have forced relationships we weren't ready to heal? Jobs we weren't meant to keep? Versions of ourselves we didn't yet believe in? And in the end, they didn't satisfy us. Because the outer didn't match the inner. When you trust timing, you give space for the inside to grow so that when the outside shows up, it fits. The practice of trusting time. So how do we trust something as vast and mysterious as timing? We practice. Here are a few ways. 1. Affirm, right now is enough. This moment is not a means to an end. It is the path. 2. Track inner growth, not just external results. Celebrate patience. Celebrate the days you didn't rush. 3. Reframe delays as sacred space. This isn't punishment. It's preparation. 4. Visualize without clinging. Imagine your future self, not to escape the present, but to align with who you're becoming. 5. Return to breath. 1 inhale. 1 exhale. Right here. Right now. Life is happening. Buddhist story, the bamboo and the oak. A young monk once asked the master, "Why do I grow so slowly in my practice?" The master led him to a garden. "Do you see the bamboo?" he asked. It took 5 years of growing roots before it ever broke through the ground. And when it did, it grew 60 feet in 1 year. Now, he continued, do you see the oak? It grew tall quickly, but it cannot bend in storms. You are bamboo, the master said. Be patient with your becoming. What if this moment is the miracle? We spend so much time reaching, grasping, chasing the next thing. But what if the delay you resent is the exact thing shaping your strength? What if the love you want is being refined in silence? What if the purpose you crave is quietly forming behind the scenes? And what if this moment, this breath, this quiet waiting is not a gap in your story, but a line of poetry? Not everything meaningful happens loudly. Some of life's most divine timing arrives softly. As a whisper, a sunset, a tear you didn't expect. A moment of I'm okay, even here. Final reflection, you're right on time. So here's what I want you to know, what your soul already knows. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not missing your moment. You are unfolding. Like a season. Like a sunrise. Like a seed that knows exactly when to bloom. You don't have to rush to meet your destiny. Your destiny is walking toward you at the exact pace your spirit can receive it. So today, release the timeline. Breathe into the pause. And remember, the universe is not in a hurry. And yet, everything arrives exactly on time. Chapter 6, You Deserve What You Believe, the Mirror of Self-Worth. At the heart of divine timing is a profound truth, one that's easy to overlook. The universe won't give you what you ask for. It gives you what you believe you deserve. That's not meant to sound like punishment. It's not karma in the popular sense of you get what's coming. It's deeper, softer, wiser. Because in Buddhism, the outer world is not something separate from us. It is a mirror, a reflection of our inner state. What you see, what you attract, what stays, and what leaves, these are all shaped, subtly and powerfully, by your beliefs about yourself. And so, we must ask, what do I really believe I'm worthy of? The unseen barrier. It's one thing to say, I want love, I want peace, I want abundance. But underneath that want, there is often a quiet voice that whispers, but I've made too many mistakes. I'm not special. I'm not there yet. People like me don't get things like that. We don't always hear that voice clearly. It doesn't shout. It hides behind politeness, ambition, or even humility. But it's there. And it creates an invisible ceiling on what we allow ourselves to receive. Because the truth is, you can only receive what you can hold. And you can only hold what you believe belongs to you. A story from the heart, James and the job he couldn't keep. James was smart, creative, kind. He finally landed the job he had dreamed of for years. A great team. Good pay. A sense of purpose. But 2 months in, something shifted. He started showing up late. Missing small details. Avoiding praise. When a promotion was hinted at, he panicked. Sabotaged a presentation. And eventually, he left. Why? Not because he couldn't do the job, but because he didn't believe he deserved to do it. He said, I kept waiting for someone to tell me it was a mistake, that I wasn't good enough. So I left before they could. James didn't lack talent. He lacked permission. Permission to belong. Permission to receive. Permission to thrive. The Buddhist teaching, your mind creates the world. In the Dhammapada, one of the earliest and most respected Buddhist texts, it is written, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become. What you think not just about the world, but about yourself shapes your experience. If you believe you are worthy of peace, you will begin to create peaceful environments. If you believe you are not worthy of being heard, you will unconsciously silence yourself. If you believe you must earn love, you will attract relationships that make you prove yourself. The outer mirrors the inner. Not as superstition but as energetic law. The conditioning of not enough. Most of us were not taught to believe in our innate worth. We were taught to earn it. Through grades. through obedience, through productivity, through comparison. We were told, you're a good girl if you're quiet. You're valuable if you win. You'll be loved if you behave. Over time, we internalized the belief that our worth was negotiable, conditional, fragile, measured by how useful or impressive we could be. But Buddhist wisdom teaches something radical. You are already enough. Not because you've achieved something, but because you exist. This is called basic goodness, a central idea in many Buddhist traditions. No matter your past, your flaws, your wounds, there is a core of goodness in you that cannot be taken away. And it is from that core that real self-worth begins to rise. Worthiness is a frequency. If you walk through life with the belief, I am allowed to receive what supports me, then the energy you emit is calm, open, and magnetic. But if you move through the world thinking, I have to prove myself every day, then you carry the energy of contraction, resistance, and guardedness. People can feel it even when you don't say it. And more importantly, the universe responds to it. You don't attract what you pretend to be. You attract what you believe you are. The shift, from earning to allowing. So how do we shift from a mindset of performance, to a state of receiving? We begin with recognition. 1. Recognize when you're shrinking. Notice when you reject compliments. When you apologize for your existence. When you explain yourself too much. 2. Recognize when you overfunction. Always being the helper, the fixer, the one who has it together, that's often a shield against feeling unworthy. 3. Recognize when you delay joy. I'll rest after I finish this. I'll feel worthy once I succeed. I'll be happy when. Every time you postpone joy, you reinforce the belief that you don't yet deserve it. But worthiness is not a reward. It's a state of being. It starts with giving yourself what you've been waiting for someone else to give you. Meditation practice, the mirror of compassion. Try this simple but powerful practice. Sit in silence. Place a mirror in front of you, or close your eyes and visualize your face. Whisper gently, I see you. I forgive you. I love you. You are enough. At first, it may feel false, even painful. But with repetition, something shifts. You stop identifying with the voice that says, not yet, and start aligning with the truth that's been waiting behind it. I am already worthy of a beautiful life. A Buddhist parable, the jewel in the robe. There's a Zen story of a man who lived in poverty for years, unaware that a friend had secretly sewn a priceless jewel into the lining of his robe. He wandered, begged, suffered, never knowing the treasure was already with him. One day, the friend returned and said, "You've had everything you needed all along. Why did you never check?" That's how worthiness works. You don't earn it. You discover it. You uncover it. It was with you the whole time, sewn into your being. Why it matters? Why does any of this matter? Because until you believe you deserve peace, you'll keep choosing chaos. Until you believe you deserve rest, you'll keep running. Until you believe you deserve love, you'll keep settling for crumbs. And you'll call it life when really it's just a reflection of your beliefs. So don't just change your habits. Change your foundation. Root yourself not in what you've done, but in who you are. The daily practice of worthiness. Let this be your practice not once, but every day. Speak to yourself like someone you love. Sit in silence without needing to prove anything. Celebrate small wins without minimizing them. Say no without apology. Say yes without guilt. Receive praise without deflecting. Rest without justifying. Because these are not indulgences. They are statements. Declarations to the universe. I know what I'm worth. And I am ready to live like it. Final reflection, you are already the prize. You are not here to chase worthiness. You are the prize. The arrival. The truth. There is nothing you need to earn to be worthy of love, joy, peace, and abundance. You came into this world whole. And nothing, no mistake, no failure, no delay has changed that. The question is not, will I ever be enough? The question is, when will I stop believing I'm not? Because the moment you do, the mirror changes. And what you attract into your life begins to reflect what's always been true. You deserve the life your soul keeps dreaming of. Not because you've earned it, but because you are it. Chapter 7, Calmness is a manifestation in itself. You've probably heard it before. Calm down. Take a breath. Don't overreact. The world often treats calmness like it's the absence of action, like it means you're not engaged or not ambitious enough. But in spiritual life, especially through the lens of Buddhism, calmness isn't passive. It's powerful. It's not what you fall back into. It's what you rise into. Calmness is not inaction. It is alignment. It is clarity. It is manifestation in its purest form. The misunderstood energy. In the age of hustle culture, calmness is often misunderstood as laziness. If you're not pushing, posting, promoting, or grinding, are you even trying? But here's what no one tells you. An anxious mind may be working harder. But a calm mind is working wiser. Calmness isn't a sign that you don't care. It's a sign that you're not willing to betray your peace for progress. Because what is the point of chasing success, love, or healing if you lose your inner equilibrium in the process? Manifestation isn't always loud. People often ask, if I want something, shouldn't I be doing more? Taking more action? Putting myself out there? And the answer is, sometimes, yes. But the most powerful manifestations are born from congruence, when your energy, intention, and presence are in harmony. You can take 1,000 actions from desperation and still feel stuck. Or you can take one action from deep calm and alignment, and open a door that changes your life. Calmness doesn't block movement. It guides it. It doesn't slow you down. It clarifies your path. A Buddhist image, the still lake. In Buddhist meditation, calmness is often compared to a still lake. When the waters are choppy and stormy, you see nothing clearly. Even your own reflection is distorted. But when the surface becomes still, everything becomes visible. The truth rises. Clarity returns. And this is what calmness does in life. It clears the surface of the mind, so we can see what's actually real. Not the story. Not the fear. Not the noise. But the simple, undeniable knowing that everything is unfolding as it should. A modern parable, Clara and the chaos of overdoing. Clara was a business coach. She was brilliant, but exhausted. She chased every lead, said yes to every client, micromanaged every detail. On the outside, she looked successful. Inside, she was unraveling. One day, she got sick, nothing life-threatening, but enough to knock her down. For the first time in years, she had to stop. In that stillness, something unexpected happened. Her inbox filled up. Old clients came back. New ones found her. All without her doing anything. She realized that her energy had shifted. She was no longer broadcasting stress. She was now radiating receptivity. From that moment forward, she rebuilt her life around one mantra. Calm is my power. Not because she stopped working, but because she stopped forcing. The science of calm energy. You don't need to be a monk to feel this. When you're around someone calm, what happens? Your breath slows. Your nervous system begins to match theirs. You feel seen, safe, and present. That's not random. That's resonance. Calmness is contagious. Because calmness is coherence. It's a regulated nervous system. A centered mind. A peaceful presence. And those are not just spiritual buzzwords, they are vibrational truths. Calmness creates a field. And from that field, manifestation occurs. Calmness as receptivity. In Western models of manifestation, there's often a lot of doing, vision boards, affirmations, declarations. But in Buddhism, manifestation is less about chasing, and more about making space. Imagine the universe as a stream, and your desires as the current flowing toward you. If you're constantly splashing, paddling, and thrashing, you disrupt the flow. But if you float present, trusting, open, what you seek arrives effortlessly. Calmness is how we stop interrupting what's already trying to reach us. Common myths about calmness. Let's dispel a few. 1. Calm people don't feel strongly. Not true. Calmness allows you to feel more deeply because you're not afraid of your emotions. 2. Calmness means being passive. No. It means choosing the right moment. It's power with patience. 3. Calm people don't take risks. They do. But from groundedness, not from fear of missing out. 4. Calmness is for people who don't have a lot going on. In truth, the more life asks of you, the more calmness you need. Calmness is not the opposite of passion. It is what allows passion to move with precision. Cultivating calm in a loud world. So how do you stay calm in a world that profits off your panic? You practice. You turn calmness from a mood into a discipline. Try this. Start your day without noise. No scrolling. No talking. Just breath, light, and space. Build sacred pauses into your routine. Before every meeting, every reply, every decision, pause. Inhale. Exhale. Name your emotional weather. This is anxiety. This is impatience. Naming diffuses reactivity. Let stillness become your teacher. Watch how much arises in silence. not as absence but as wisdom. Protect your peace like it's your job. Because it is. It's your sacred task in a chaotic world. A Buddhist koan, what moves? A student once asked the Zen master. The wind moves, and the flag moves. Which one moves? The master replied. Neither the wind nor the flag moves. Your mind moves. This teaching invites us inward. What if the chaos we perceive is not outside, but inside? What if we could anchor ourselves so deeply that even the winds of life don't shake us? That is calmness. Not detachment. Not numbing. But anchoring. Being so rooted in presence that no external tide can drag you into panic. Calmness in crisis. Let's be honest. Calmness is easy when things are going well. But what about when you lose a job? When someone betrays you? When life crashes without warning? That's when calmness reveals its true strength. It's not denial. It's resilience. It says, this hurts. But I'm here. This is not what I wanted. But I will meet it with grace. I don't know what's next. But I trust one will find my way. Calmness allows emotion to move through you without overtaking you. It lets you cry, without crumbling. Speak truth, without yelling. Start over, without panic. Final reflection, you become what you embody. Let this be your reminder. You don't have to force every door open. You don't have to push every hour. You don't have to chase every dream like it's slipping away. Sometimes, the most radical thing you can do is, breathe. Be still. Return to your center. And in doing so, you become a magnet, not a machine. Because here's the secret. You don't manifest what you force. You manifest what you are. So be peace. Be trust. Be calm. And let the universe meet you there. Chapter 8, when you let go, you make space for miracles. There is a kind of freedom you only taste after surrender. Not the shallow surrender that says, I guess it wasn't meant to be, while your fists are still clenched. But the deep kind. The kind where your body softens. Where your breath returns. Where your attachment dissolves not in defeat, but in peace. And then, almost always, something shifts. A door opens. A message arrives. A chance encounter turns into a turning point. It's not magic. It's not coincidence. It's what happens when you stop filling every corner of your life with control. And leave room for something wiser to enter. The nature of holding on. Let's begin here. Why do we hold on so tightly? To people who no longer nourish us. To stories about who we're supposed to be. To timelines that make us feel valuable. To goals that no longer resonate. We cling because we fear. Fear that if we let go, we'll lose everything. Fear that surrender means failure. Fear that without holding on, nothing will hold us. But in Buddhism, clinging is identified as one of the root causes of suffering. Not because wanting is wrong, but because tightness blocks flow. You cannot receive with closed hands. You cannot exhale with locked lungs. You cannot live fully if you're always managing your fear of loss. A simple image, the teacup. Imagine holding a full teacup in each hand. And now, life tries to offer you something new: a bowl of nourishing soup, a warm embrace, a letter from the future. But your hands are full. You're so busy holding on to what you already have, sometimes things that aren't even good anymore, that you can't accept what's coming. Letting go isn't rejection. It's readiness. It says to the universe, I'm willing to create space for what I don't yet know. And in that space, miracles find their way in. A personal story: Lena and the love she was afraid to receive. Lena had been in a relationship for 8 years. Safe, familiar, predictable. But deep down, she knew it was over. The laughter was gone. The connection had faded. Still, she held on. Better this than loneliness, she thought. One night, after yet another argument, she sat in silence and asked herself, what am I really holding onto? The answer wasn't him. It was the fear of letting go. Of the unknown. Of not being loved again. But she let go anyway. Not in anger. In softness. Months later, she met someone new, not a fantasy, not a savior, but a partner who met her with presence, depth, and mutual growth. She didn't meet him because she went searching. She met him because she finally had space. The paradox of surrender. Letting go doesn't mean giving up on what you want. It means detaching from how and when it arrives. It means releasing the timeline, the form, the ego's obsession with specifics. You don't stop moving. You stop gripping. You still act. But you act from alignment, not anxiety. You still hope. But you don't confuse hope with control. And that right there is the sweet spot where miracles grow. Buddhism and the power of non-attachment. In Buddhist philosophy, non-attachment, upekkha, is a quality of inner equanimity. It doesn't mean apathy. It means you stop trying to bend reality to your will. You stop saying, it has to happen my way. This outcome is the only acceptable one. If I don't get this, something is wrong. Instead, you say, I trust that what's for me will not miss me. And what misses me was never truly for me. This doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful because you are no longer a slave to circumstance. You become free. What letting go actually looks like. Let's bring this down to earth. Letting go is not always dramatic. It's often quiet. It looks like deleting the old draft of a dream that no longer fits you. Returning the call you've been avoiding, not to win, but to close. Saying goodbye without needing a villain. Sitting in silence when the urge to fix, solve, or explain rises. Breathing through discomfort instead of panicking for resolution. Letting go is not one big moment. It's 1,000 small choices that say, I choose trust over tension. The universe can't fill what you won't empty. Here's a question to ask yourself. Where am I trying to receive, without being willing to release? Maybe you want a new career but you won't let go of the identity tied to your current one. Maybe you want a deeper relationship but you won't let go of the walls you've built. Maybe you want spiritual clarity but your mind is still cluttered with old beliefs and outdated goals. The universe is abundant. But it's not forceful. It waits for your signal. And the clearest signal is this: space. A Buddhist parable, the overflowing cup. A student once visited a Zen master to learn the secrets of enlightenment. As the master poured him tea, the student kept talking, sharing everything he already knew. The master kept pouring until the tea spilled over the edge. "Stop," said the student. "The cup is full." "Exactly," the master replied. "How can I teach you anything, if your cup is already full?" We are that student, often. So full of ideas, plans, noise, urgency that there's no room for new wisdom to enter. Letting go is emptying the cup. Not forever. Just enough to be teachable again. Real life miracles aren't always flashy. When we hear miracle, we imagine fireworks. Instant healing. Sudden wealth. Impossible luck. But real miracles? They often look like peace where there used to be panic. A friend calling at the perfect time. Discovering that you no longer want what once obsessed you. Choosing rest without guilt. Laughing again, for no reason. Miracles aren't events. They're shifts. Moments when your internal world aligns so deeply with truth, that reality begins to rearrange itself around you. The art of creating space. So how do we practice letting go consistently, gently, truly? Try this. Clear one corner of your home. A shelf, a drawer, a desk. Make space. Watch what shifts emotionally. Release one story. I'm not good enough. Things never work out for me. Question it. Bless it. Let it go. Say one sacred no to something that drains you. Without over-explaining. Forgive one thing. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Write one goodbye letter. To a version of you that no longer serves your becoming. Each act is a signal: I'm ready to receive something better. Final reflection: make room for grace. Let this be your quiet revolution. Let go. Not in anger. Not in haste. Not in fear. But in faith. Faith that the universe is not withholding. Faith that what's next is kinder than what you're leaving behind. Faith that by loosening your grip, you'll gain a softer strength. You don't have to figure everything out. Just begin by clearing space in your home, in your thoughts, in your heart. And in that sacred spaciousness, let grace move. Let life surprise you. Let miracles find their way in. Because they will. They always do. But only when you're willing to open the door. Chapter 9, Trusting the Invisible, Walking Without Knowing the Destination. There comes a point in every soul's journey where the path ahead disappears. Not because it ends. But because you've entered the space between what was and what will be. It's quiet there. Uncertain. Foggy. Your mind wants to panic. Your ego wants answers. But your heart, if you're still enough to hear it, whispers something much softer. Just walk. When the map burns. We're taught to trust maps. Plans. Goals. Strategies. Blueprints. And when life rips them up, we feel betrayed. What now? Where do I go? Why isn't it clear? But clarity is not always given in advance. In fact, it rarely is. Buddhism reminds us, the next step is revealed only by taking this one. It's not about having the whole path. It's about taking one mindful step even if you're not sure where it leads. A real story, Marcus and the leap with no net. Marcus had worked at the same corporate job for 12 years. Steady income. Safe routine. But slowly, he began to feel like he was dying inside. He wanted something more soulful, something creative. But he had no plan. No backup. Just a quiet longing. One night, during meditation, a question surfaced. What if this longing is the voice of your future calling you home? He didn't quit the next day. But over months, he followed that voice, writing, sharing, exploring. Eventually, he left. Not with certainty, but with trust. Today, he leads workshops on intuitive living. Not because he had a roadmap, but because he learned to walk by feel. He says, the first step was pitch black. But somehow, it was exactly where I needed to go. Faith in Buddhism, not belief, but confidence. The Pali word for faith in Buddhism is saddha. It doesn't mean blind belief. It means inner confidence born of experience. Not, I believe because I'm told. But, I trust because I've walked. It is the quiet knowing that something in you is aligned with something beyond you. You don't need proof. You need presence. That's why so many great teachers speak not of certainty, but of surrender. You don't have to see the whole staircase. You take the next step because you feel it's right. The invisible path is often the real one. There's a reason spiritual growth often feels confusing. Because you're not becoming someone new. You're unbecoming everything you were told to be. That's not a straight line. It's a spiral. A dance. A mystery. And most of it unfolds in the dark. You leave a job, but don't yet know your calling. You end a relationship, but haven't found the healing. You let go of an old identity, but haven't met the new one. This in-between is not failure. It's holy ground. A place where your faith is forged. Not in answers but in allowing. But how do you trust what you can't see? Let's not pretend this is easy. Your mind wants logic. Evidence. Reassurance. But the soul moves differently. Here's what helps. 1. Remember your past leaps. When did you trust something unseen and it worked out? Write it down. Revisit it. 2. Borrow belief from others. If you can't trust your path right now, borrow stories from those who walked before you. Let their light help you cross the dark. 3. Feel your body. The body knows before the mind does. Calm isn't found in certainty, it's felt in alignment. 4. Ask small questions. What is the next right thing? What feels most true right now? These are easier to answer than what is my purpose? 5. Let go of needing a guarantee. What if not knowing is part of the miracle? A Zen parable, the man in the fog. A man was walking through thick mountain fog. He could only see 3 feet ahead. But he kept going. A passerby shouted, "Aren't you afraid of getting lost?" The man smiled and replied, "I only need 3 feet to keep moving. By the time I take 3 more steps, I'll see the next 3. We want to see the whole map. But life gives us lanterns, not floodlights. And maybe that's enough. The gift of not knowing. There is something sacred about not knowing. Because when you don't know, you're finally honest. You stop pretending. You stop performing. You start listening. To whispers. To nudges. To dreams that have been waiting in the silence. In not knowing, you become available. And in that availability, life can finally reach you. Trust is a practice, not a feeling. We often think trust means feeling safe. But true trust is acting before the safety arrives. It is saying, I don't know what's coming, but I know I can meet it. That's why in Buddhism, trust is built on discipline, meditation, mindfulness, presence. Because the more anchored you are in this moment, the less you need to be certain about the next one. Real life application, trusting in everyday uncertainty. You don't have to quit your job or move to another country to practice this. Trusting the invisible can look like saying yes to a new opportunity you're not ready for. Saying no to what no longer feels aligned even if there's no alternative yet. Writing the first page of a book without knowing how it ends. Speaking from your heart without a script. Forgiving without proof of change. Every time you do these things, you're building a deeper faith. In yourself. In life. In the invisible rhythm that moves you toward your becoming. The universe responds to bold stillness. There's a quiet magnetism in people who walk forward without needing guarantees. They don't rush. They don't justify. They move with calm conviction. It's not because they know the future. It's because they're anchored in the now. They trust that the invisible will become visible when it's ready. And until then, they walk anyway. Final reflection, become the kind of person who trusts. If you take nothing else from this chapter, take this. You don't have to see where you're going. To trust where you are. Let this moment be your teacher. Let uncertainty be your ally. Let presence be your compass. The greatest paths are rarely marked. But the soul knows where to go. So keep walking. Keep listening. Keep opening. Because though the way is invisible now, it is already unfolding beneath your feet. And one day, perhaps sooner than you expect, you'll look back and say, I didn't know where I was going. But somehow, I arrived exactly where I was meant to be. Chapter 10, Becoming the Space, where life happens without force. We've spent this entire journey exploring letting go, alignment, trust, presence, and surrender. Each chapter has peeled back a layer of striving. Each story has whispered the same gentle truth. You don't have to force life to happen. You simply have to become the space in which it can. Let that sink in for a moment. You are not here to dominate your destiny like a general commanding troops. You are here to become so open, so aligned, so deeply anchored in presence, that life itself is drawn to you naturally, effortlessly, divinely. You are not the architect, you are the soil. Most of us try to build our lives like engineers, precise, calculated, busy with plans. But the soul doesn't thrive in blueprints. It thrives in rich, fertile, receptive space. In Buddhism, this is not passivity, it is mindfulness at its highest. You become the ground, the garden, the openness in which things grow. When you stop being the architect, you begin to discover the intelligence of life itself. How it moves through you, not against you. What does it mean to become the space? It means you stop chasing. You stop proving. You stop managing your life like a corporate project. Instead, you soften. You cultivate presence. You clear mental clutter. You make inner room for the unexpected to arrive. You become less like the hunter, and more like the forest. Still. Silent. Alive. You don't go after birds. You become the place where they want to land. That's the shift. A Zen parable, the empty room. A young monk asked his teacher, "Master, how do I find enlightenment?" The teacher led him to an empty room. "Sit here until it's full," he said. The student waited hours, days, but the room remained bare. Confused, he returned. The master smiled and said, "Now do you see? The room was never meant to be filled with things. It was meant to be clear so truth could enter. We are that room. We try to fill it with noise, effort, busyness, identity. But truth, insight, love, grace enters only when the space is made. When you're no longer obsessed with outcomes. There's a moment in spiritual growth that feels like a deep breath. You stop needing life to meet a specific image. Not because you've given up, but because you've grown beyond the fantasy. You don't need to be admired to feel valuable. You don't need to have it all figured out to feel safe. You don't need the timeline to hurry. You stop gripping. You start hosting. Life becomes a guest in your home, not a hostage of your expectations. Becoming the space in relationships. This shift transforms the way you love. You stop needing others to change in order for you to feel okay. You stop fixing, pleasing, controlling, manipulating. Instead, you create space for people to grow at their own pace, for conversations to breathe, for conflict to reveal hidden truth, for healing to arrive organically. When you become the space, you become unshakable. You are no longer a reaction. You are a container. And in that container, love feels safe enough to be real. Life doesn't respond to pressure, it responds to openness. There's a strange irony in the way we live. We think that the tighter we grip, the more we'll gain. But life doesn't open under pressure. It blooms under invitation. Like the petals of a flower in the warmth of the sun. Not the strike of a fist. Your energy is the invitation. When you are relaxed, trusting, embodied, clear, life knows exactly where to go. It doesn't need force. It needs room. A story, Noah's practice of becoming. Noah was an artist who hadn't created anything for 3 years. He was blocked, stressed, convinced he had lost his spark. Until one evening, during a walk, he sat beneath a tree and just breathed. No goal. No agenda. Just presence. He started doing this every morning. Not to find inspiration, just to sit. Weeks later, without trying, he picked up his brush. The painting poured out. He didn't chase it. He became the space in which it could return. His new mantra? My job isn't to force the art. My job is to become the place where the art feels safe to land. The practice of spacious living. So how do you live this way? Not once. Not as a performance. But as a lifestyle. Start small. Start gently. But start. Here are ways to become the space. 1. Simplify your environment. Declutter. Clear. Create room for grace. 2. Watch your thoughts like clouds. No need to chase or fix them. Just observe. Let them pass. 3. Let go of constant commentary. You don't have to narrate your worth every moment. You can just be. 4. Pause before responding. Make space for intention. It will change everything. 5. Trust the gaps. Not every moment has to be filled. The in-betweens are sacred. 6. Meditate not to silence the mind, but to become the space that holds it. You don't need to find yourself. One of the great myths of modern spirituality is that you have to go out and find yourself. But who you are is not lost. It's just buried under stories, striving, roles, and pressure. When you become the space, you realize you are not the waves. You are the ocean. You are not the thoughts. You are the awareness. You are not the doing. You are the being beneath it all. From this place, clarity doesn't need to be chased. It emerges. From this place, peace isn't something to achieve. It is remembered. The final paradox: you don't make life happen. Life is not something you build like a tower of blocks. It is something that unfolds. When you stop standing in the way. When you stop filling every crack with tasks and tension. When you stop treating your becoming like a finish line. What if the most important thing isn't the next step, but the next stillness? What if your only job is to stay so deeply present, so open, so willing to trust, that the next step shows itself? That's what it means to become the space. Final reflection: you are the place where grace arrives. Let this land gently. You don't have to do more. You don't have to push harder. You don't have to be better. You are already the home your miracles are looking for. So breathe. Let go. Be still. And become the space where life unfolds. The space where truth whispers. Where love lands. Where peace isn't chased, it simply arises. Because in the end, the most powerful version of you is not the one who has it all figured out. It's the one who is empty enough to receive what can only arrive through openness. You are the space. And life is already entering. As this journey draws to a close, you might feel lighter, not because you've learned something new, but because you've remembered something ancient. That peace isn't found in the next answer, the next goal, or the next approval. It's in the breath you're taking, right now. In the gentle release of control. In the trust that what's meant for you is already on its way. Buddhist teachings don't promise that life will always be smooth. But they offer something far more powerful. The ability to remain still within the waves. To smile without knowing. To love without holding. to walk with purpose, without chasing an outcome. You are not here to fight your way through life. You are here to unfold, to align, to become. And as you let go, again and again, you'll see that the universe was never against you. It was simply waiting for you to stop resisting. So here's the final invitation. Don't just understand these teachings. Live them. Let go. Live free. And allow the wisdom of stillness to shape your days. Until next time, may you walk gently, trust fully, and rest in the peace that is already yours.